Millions of Americans lost their jobs last year, causing them to make huge sacrifices. We rounded out the year 2020 with just under 11 million people unemployed, but throughout the year, numbers hit as high as 23 million. Out of work, Americans faced rising bills, with their rent being one of them.
So we're definitely seeing a lot of evidence right now that there are a lot of renters out there who are really struggling financially in order to stay current on their rent. We found that more than a third of renters have drawn from their personal savings account. Nearly a third have borrowed money from friends or family. 23% have accumulated credit card debt. And this is true not just of the renters who are falling behind of rent, but also on renters who are current with their rent. So this is really telling us that across the board, we are seeing a lot of folks who are making these unprecedented financial sacrifices in order to pay their rent.
This trend is alarming, but it isn't new. In 2018, the U.S. Census Bureau estimated that about 40.6% of renters were rent burdened, meaning they spent 35% or more of their monthly income on housing. And now, with COVID-19, that burden is multiplied.
So many people are out of work, and there's so few options to be able to get back to earnings that they had previously quickly. It'll come, but it's not there yet. So what we have seen is data coming out of the Federal Reserve that rates of using credit cards for rental payments are really through the roof. 70% increases beyond what we've seen previously.
The increased trend of paying for rent with credit cards can harm renters' finances in the long term. Even if you can make a rent payment, using too much of your available credit can hurt your score. And a low credit score will impact your ability to make financial decisions in the future, like buying a car or a home.
If you're constantly carrying a credit card balance just for the essentials, chances are it means that you're not stashing enough money away to protect yourself going forward. And life is really expensive in 2021. And the truth is that an awful lot of people don't have the luxury of putting any money away. And that's why they're having to lean on those credit cards. One thing for people to keep in mind when it comes to paying some of these essentials with their credit card is that a lot of times there'll be extra fees assessed. And for folks who have no choice financially but to put those costs on a credit card, the last thing you want when you're already struggling to make ends meet is to pay an extra 2 to 3% on top of that bill that you already can't afford just to be able to pay for it with a credit card. People have way more power over their credit card issuer than they realize. And one of the ways that they can wield that really well is to ask for a lower interest rate. The numbers over the years have shown consistently that people frequently get their way when they ask for a lower interest rate, and they do so to a degree that would really surprise people. A lot of people get nervous. They don't want to negotiate, especially with something as big and powerful as a big bank and credit card issuer. But the truth is that it really is in your interest to ask. The worst thing that can happen is that they tell you no, but if they say yes, then some amazing things can really happen, and that's certainly the case with your money. It's important to remember that nobody cares as much about your money as you do.
If you are struggling with your rent right now, the first thing I would do is just make sure that you're really communicative with your landlord. We are seeing that in a lot of cases right now, landlords are willing to negotiate. And so if you're in a tough spot, it's definitely best to, not have it come as a surprise to them when you miss your rent, and you may be able to work out, some form of agreement with your landlord. There are a lot of programs that are being administered at various levels, both, federal, state, and local. And so there may be assistance out there for you. It can be a little bit tough to sort of track down the correct resources because it is this patchwork of federal, state, and local programs in place right now, but there may be help out there and hopefully more on the way.
It's okay to cut yourself some slack, because when things are really difficult, as much as you might like to protect your credit and to make as many payments as you can, sometimes you got to change your priorities. And if keeping the lights on, if keeping a roof over your head, if keeping food on the table means that you may not be able to make that minimum payment on your credit card and it can hurt your credit, it's really unfortunate. But right now, in difficult economic times like this, it's about setting priorities, realizing that you might not be able to do everything, and not beating yourself up if you can't. Just do what you can that day, live to fight another day, and understand that things will be okay in the long run.